There we go.
There we go. So let's start that again. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting tonight, Tuesday, March the 10th. Appreciate department heads coming, and I'll recognize a few of you in a few minutes. Let me call on Mr. Elliott to lead our invocation and pledge.
Heavenly Father, God, we come before you tonight. And Father, we ask that you just send your protection, Father, over the whole entire world. God, as we face the COVID-19 virus that's going around, we ask for your wisdom. We thank you, God, that we're in good hands. Father, we thank you for the wisdom of our public health director. And God, all that she's done to keep the citizens of Davidson County healthy and well. Father, we thank you, God, for all of our directors that we have that take the extra precautions and take the steps, God, to keep the citizens and our employees safe. Father, tonight we ask you for that wisdom that only you can give, that we can make sound decisions, Father. We could be together in unity, and we could do what's right for the citizens of Davidson County. Father, I ask you that you be over our president. Father, I ask you that you be over all those in authority, that you be over our sheriff and our elected officials. Father, I thank you, God, for what you're going to do tonight. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Mr. Keith Carroll here as our Thomasville Chamber representative. It's good to see you. I also looked out there and I see Dr. Gentry from Thomasville. Thank you for being with us tonight. Clerk of Court, I saw Clerk of Court Sandy Chappell back there. If there anyone else I've left out, I appreciate all of you being here and taking part in our important work. Please register for public address if you'd like to speak tonight. And I'd like to excuse Commissioner Yates tonight. He's out of town on a business trip, unable to be here. May I have a motion second to excuse him?
Second.
Please vote verbally. All in favor? Aye. Mr. McClure and Mr. Truell. For our agenda tonight, Mr. Fry has asked that the contract with the town of Denton to provide fire service to South Emmons be added as agenda item 9D. Are there any other changes to the agenda? May I have a motion and a second to adopt the amended agenda?
I make a motion, Ms. Chairwoman.
Mr. Elliott, do I have a second? Mr. Crotts, please cast your vote.
All of the votes are in, and that motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Is there anyone registered to speak at public address?
Yes, ma'am, there is.
Thank you, dear. I believe the first person to address is Melissa Prout. Is that correct? Okay. Would you state your name?
My name is Melissa Prout, and I would like to address the issue of the reval. I basically just have a question, a request, and probably a comment or two. I would like to know, or I would like for you, before you decide to do a reval of every 6 years instead of the 8, I'd like to know what other areas you've cut or eliminated positions or things that you've done that could save the taxpayers money or make up for that loss. That does not include raising taxes on Davidson County, property taxes. I'd like to see an itemized list of what those deductions were or things that were eliminated that got us to this point before this was our first go-to solution. Having that posted on the website would be fantastic. My request is that the county commissioners set up a town hall type meeting with the residents of this county before they make that decision. There are many issues in this county that need to be discussed with our county commissioners. You are in an elected position, but you're not hearing our voices that's being reflected in some of your votes. So before you start casting votes, please let's have something more than a couple minutes every other Tuesday. Come down, speak to the community, hear the concerns, because there's a lot of them. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Barney W. Hill.
You talked about revaluation at the retreat, and you will talk about it again tonight. Why do you torture yourselves by dwelling on such a dry subject? Is it a purely academic interest in obtaining a more accurate calculation of the tax base? I think not. The clue is in the vicissitudes of the real estate market. When prices were tanking, you were desperate to postpone revaluation. Now that they are again headed north, you are eager to abbreviate the octennial cycle. Show me a revaluation in a healthy economy that did not result in an additional dollar amount transfer of wealth from the private sector to the government. There is a name for that: tax increase. Don't insult my intelligence by trying to hide behind a euphemism.
Thank you. For public hearing tonight, we have a rezoning request by Philip Dale Welborn in the Thomasville Township. I declare the public hearing open, and Mr. Cornman will introduce the application.
Madam Chairman, as the meeting was beginning, we got word that Mr. Welborn was en route to the, if it pleases the board, we could hear the Lisa Ann Wolf application, and then
Right.
hopefully that'll
Okay,
give him time to arrive.
all right. Now, I think we're in agreement.
Okay, can you get to that zoning map? Okay, you have a request by Lisa Ann Wolf to rezone a portion of the said properties in Tyro Township, tax map 36, part of lots 24A and 24 containing 1.49 acres more or less. The property is located on the east side of Swicegood Road, approximately 0.13 of a mile south of the old Wesley Chapel Road intersection. The address is 2117 Swicegood Road. The zoning is requested to change from RA1 Rural Agricultural District to that of RA2 Rural Agricultural District. Planning and Zoning Board discussed this. It was their recommendation 5-0 to recommend approval of the request. The applicants are wanting to locate a single-wide manufactured home in this location that's cross-hatched in yellow on your zoning map, and it's labeled as site. And you can see that location. The Wolves are here to discuss their application and their intent for the manufactured home. I believe it's for a family member that's wanting to locate there, so I'd like to hear from them.
Will you, Ty, will you explain the request for us?
Yes, the way we're wanting to do it is, when we first cut it out, it's a family property, and my dad gifted it to us. There's just 3 people in my family, and I just don't need or could afford a double wide. A single wide is more within my financial stability. But it's my way to actually have, ownership. So the reason we're trying to do it for the single wide is just for that purpose. It's just too large of a home for a double wide, for just 3 of us.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk,
Any questions?
did you get the name of the speaker?
Lisa Ann Wolf, yes, sir.
Sorry.
Yeah. From what it looks like, there's other mobile homes in the area, is that correct?
Yes, there are, some single wides up the road, and there are, a few modulars and double wides right near us. Yes, sir. There is a single wide that's actually located on that 23 you see listed there.
What it looked like, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it looks like, on the other road, to the right, just a little bit
Yep,
next to the
it's right
12,
there.
there's one right there, it looks like.
And there's one on the back half that mirrors my father's land, which is
Okay.
the big plot you see. There's one on Wesley Chapel as well that is a single wide. It's 2A, I think is where it's pointing at. There's a single wide right there as well.
We just,
Of
well,
one.
not we, me, I try to look at that and make sure that you're not putting one where there's not another one around the vicinity.
Yes, sir.
But I commend what you're doing, I've been there, done that. We all start out at, a young age, and we've gotta move up from there, so,
Yes, sir.
thank you, ma'am.
It's, contiguous with RA2 zoning, so,
Yes, sir.
you know, it's good with me, and, my mother-in-law and father-in-law live in a single-wide trailer. Hey, kudos to you and your family. Proud of you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak either in favor of or opposition to this request? Why don't you just step over there?
Since the staff recommendation uses the policy 6.10 language about a variety of housing types, it is only appropriate that policy 6.10 be cited in support of the recommendation. There is contiguity. The planning board quickly ran out of things to talk about. When somebody's property is at stake, boring is better.
Mr. Cornman, staff recommendation?
Yes, as been pointed out, there is a variety of housing stock that's in the area there. The rural agricultural character of the neighborhood will still be preserved if this is approved. And I would cite 6.5 says that manufactured housing may be located according to appearance criteria and development standards consistent with nearby properties. So we've incorporated that into your consistency statement. So we would recommend approval.
Any further questions or comments? I declare the public hearing closed. May I have a motion and a second to either approve or deny this rezoning request and adopt the resolution of statement of consistency?
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Okay. Is Mr. Welborn, has he arrived yet?
And all of the votes are in, and that motion carries 6-0.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Congratulations.
All right, Madam Chairman, Mr. Welborn has not arrived. If you would like to maybe put it to
We could move it to the
end of the meeting.
end of the meeting. Give him
Give him a
additional
chance to-
time. Is that all right with you all?
We confirmed that he is en route, so
Okay.
he should be here shortly. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The items for decision and information consent agenda, are there any items to remove from the consent agenda for discussion?
Motion approved consent agenda.
Have a motion from Mr. Truill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. McClure. Please cast your vote.
All of the votes are in, and that motion carries 6-0.
Okay. We'll go on to number 9, items for deliberation. I'm gonna call on Mr. McClure to do our proclamation tonight about Red Cross Month.
Yes. American Red Cross Month 2020. Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a time when we recognize a humanitarian organization that eases people's suffering during life emergencies in Davidson County, across the United States and around the world. The Piedmont Triad chapter has a long history of helping our neighbors in need by delivering shelter, care, and hope during disasters, making our community safer through its life-saving home fire campaign, providing life-saving blood, teaching skills that save lives, and supporting military, veterans, and their families. During this Red Cross Month, we thank and honor the selfless volunteers, dedicated employees, and generous supporters who make this compassionate work possible. And whereas last year, 37 Piedmont Triad chapter volunteers in Davidson County helped 159 people affected by 50 home fires in Davidson County by addressing their urgent needs like food and lodging and providing recovery support. Meanwhile, when large disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, winter storms, and floods devastate families in other parts of the counties last year, 4 volunteers from Davidson County were among the nearly 9,000 Red Cross workers, 90% of them volunteers, who left their homes to work alongside partners to provide refuge, food, relief items, emotional support, recovery planning, and other assistance. And whereas, meanwhile, the Red Cross continues to work with its partners to prevent fire tragedies through its National Home Fire Campaign, which installed its 2 millionth free smoke alarm last year and has saved hundreds of lives across the county since launching 5 years ago. In Davidson County, the Piedmont Triad chapter and local partners have installed 205 free smoke alarms and made 80 households safer from the threat of home fires. And whereas additionally in Davidson County, the Red Cross collected 4,169 units of blood that could save as many as 12,537 lives. They trained 605 people life-saving skills in CPR, first aid, and AED training, and provided 175 emergency services to members of the armed forces and their family. We recognize the volunteer heroes in Davidson County who make this work possible to help our neighbors when they need a helping hand. And whereas every day people in our community depend upon the American Red Cross, whose life-saving mission is powered by the devotion of volunteers, generosity of donors, and partnership of community organizations, we dedicate the month of March to all those who support its vital work to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies. Now, therefore, the Davidson County Board of Commissioners, by virtue of the authority vested in it by the Constitution and laws of Davidson County and the state of North Carolina, do hereby proclaim March 2020 as Red Cross Month and encourage all citizens to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission.
Thank you.
I'll second his motion.
He's made a motion, and Mr. Truill has seconded it. Please cast your vote.
Absolutely.
All of the votes are in, and that motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Hughes here?
John could make it. My name is Brandon Cook from the Red Cross.
Okay. Mr. Cook, if you could, if you want to come up, we'll get a picture taken with the board, and I will send the proclamation to you all.
Go down there and take pictures.
That'll be come to the middle.
Come right here in the middle.
We wanna get a better looking member of our board in it.
One, two, three. One, two, three. Thank you, and I'll send these out to John.
He knew how to pose. You see that arm thrown up?
I
All right. Casey's going to lead off, a request for graphic murals at the Senior Services Campus Facility, and Tisha will present as well.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Smith.
Chair. I'm gonna ask, Tisha Everhart Roberts, our Director of Senior Services, to come up to the podium. Several months ago, Tisha and her staff came to the Facilities Committee to talk about for lack of a better term, an honoring type of, wall mural for seniors at the senior citizens, at the West Campus, to honor seniors. And it was gonna be paid for out of PBB, but the request came to Facilities Committee, because again, it involves facilities. At that time, the Facilities Committee, asked staff to go back, take a look, talk to the community college, see if there was options to do it, maybe do it a little bit cheaper or of some other nature like that. She came back to the Facilities Committee a week or so ago, talked to them, shared those options with them. The Facilities Committee thought it best that she come to the full board with that request this evening, so that's why she's here.
So Casey just, reviewed everything that I had written. But, as Casey had mentioned, though, we were able to reduce the cost of the proposal from $19,005 down to $10,705. Our vendor of choice is Workplace Strategies. They have a history of working with aging and community-based services in this area, such as Senior Services Incorporated in Winston-Salem, Kings Mountain Life Enrichment Center, and also, I think it is, Shelby Life Enrichment Center as well. But you do have in your information some examples that I have given you of what some of the wall graphics could look like. Okay. The top two are of Senior Services Incorporated in Winston-Salem, and then the rest are just examples of what maybe some various organizations use, for their wall graphic projects. In researching, as Casey said, a provider of this service, I reached out to SignWorks, did not receive a response. SE Logoware Incorporated, who offers print-only wall graphics, and also, as Casey had said, I reached out to the community college. Jeffrey Pubance, he is the digital facility manager with the community college, and he just felt like that this project was something too large for his students. In addition, they have no way of being able to print or install the graphics that we would need to use. So there are many favorable qualities to using wall graphics. They are easy to maintain. They keep walls free of holes and nails that are used in like hanging pictures and other decors. They're around for the duration. They don't go out of style like a lot of different decor does. And they're visually appealing and welcoming, and they definitely speak volumes about the work of the organization. So I spoke to some of the seniors about this project, and I received some positive comments such as what a wonderful way to honor the county's older adults. One said, I can envision how designs such as these can create a more warm and welcoming environment. And one even stated, I think it would look really nice, maybe we could honor Angela Kimsey. So we have more than 300 clients visiting our facility each month. So we think that these graphics are a unique and effective way to promote in a positive way the positive aspects of aging in Davidson County. So I feel like that's a really good return on the investment. You also have some photos, some sample photos of in your packet as well. On the top left is Roy Leverett. Mr. Leverett is a participant in our Congregate Nutrition Site program, and he is also a client of the Transportation Services. On January the 22nd of this year, Mr. Leverett turned 103 years old. And if you have never met, I meant to say 103 years young because he deserves that. If you have never met Mr. Leverett, you should meet him. He is an amazing person. And the next picture beside him is Angela Kimsey. You may remember Angela. She was a 26-year employee of Senior Services who loved her clients. and they loved her back. Tragically, we lost her to cancer, in March of 2018. Ann Corn, you see a picture of her throwing the football. She is 97 years of age. She has been an avid supporter of senior services for more than 25 years. She has participated in anything and everything that we've had. She's been a class instructor, a volunteer, a participant, served on a number of boards and committees, and also a senior games ambassador, and those are just to name a few. Lamar Moore, he has played he was very integral in the establishment of senior services in the late 1970s, and he continues to serve our department and to support us. And the remaining photos are just some other photos of service participants and also some stock photos. So we could use a blend of citizens and stock photos, or we could just use all stock photos. I mean, the options are limitless. So the graphic proposal that I have put before you tonight is for 8 areas of the building. It includes our foyer, hallways, computer labs, 2 large and 1 small activity room, our fitness room, and also a small conference room. So as mentioned earlier, my request is to use PBB funds to move forward with this project. Are there any questions?
These photos, would these be photos in frames or collage or what?
No, the wall graphic, they would be incorporated into the wall graphics, which is, I guess you could think of it as like a decal that you put on your car, except they're huge. As the picture's shown, the actual photos will be incorporated in that way. So the photos will be printed and, yeah. So as you can see how these photos are incorporated into the wall graphics themselves, that's what some of these would be if we use these. I mean, I really don't know to what extent ours would look like right now because I haven't moved forward with the designer to assist.
I've got a couple of just little logistical questions. Do they adhere to the wall, or are they raised up from the wall?
They adhere to the wall.
Okay. So once you decided to remove them, are they easy to remove, and does the wall have to be repainted before another one can be put back on? Do you know that?
I think it would depend on how long they're on the wall. I know that we had done some little small graphic things on the walls when we first moved into the facility in 2010. Some of them you can just peel right off, and some of them may grasp the paint at different points. You just never know.
Okay.
Madam Chairman?
Yes,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Do you have questions?
I have just one question, Tisha. First, I want to commend you for going from 20,000 down to 10,000.
I do too.
You know, that's a big selling point to me but one of the things we discussed relevant to this right here was, some of the events we put on. And like we got 2 this week are charging a fee for registration. And you alluded to at that time that you were making some bringing up some discussion about the few people that can't afford, and waivers of that nature. How's that progressing?
Yes, so we have waivers it's in our policies, but I've come to understand that maybe we haven't done the best job of relaying it to the public. So anything that we have a fee for on our events, we do have a waiver for someone that can't afford to pay. Basically, some of our events may cost like $5 for a ticket, and that's just to help offset the cost of it for the food and the prizes, or just depending on what is there. But we are going to make a concerted effort to do a better job of letting the public know that no one has to pay for any of the events that we have, that we do have a waiver. If they just let us know, we do waive that fee.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, could I speak?
Yes, sir.
So first of all, I'd like to tell you thank you for when you look at the pictures and you look at just your dedication to the seniors in this county, and I know because you allowed me and my wife to coach senior softball, and just seeing how the individuals of this county love you, and knowing how good you are with money, because PBB, the program in general, means that you save the county money, you've overperformed, and you've earned that money to do a few things with it. It's not like we can use PBB money for everything. There's certain designations that you can use it for, and necessarily I don't like getting involved in telling departments how they can use their PBB funds. I like the fact that you're doing this and you can honor some staff members that devoted their lives to the county. and that we can show the citizens of the county that we really care about them by putting something up to honor them. I love that. I also like the fact that I heard from another department head that not only do you help your department with your PBB funds, but you help other departments with PBB funds. That says a lot about you personally, and it says a lot about your department, and I want to thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Okay. I see the value of a new participant that comes in and seeing that as an advertisement. And I also appreciate the aesthetic value as well. We all like to be in comfortable surroundings that give us encouragement ourselves. So, and again, I appreciate you lowering the price. That certainly is admirable, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask, this route we talk about, does that cover the whole wall? Or just part of
Well, it depends, on how it's designed. I mean, every wall will not be covered, and so it might be just like an accent wall that'll be covered. So again, it depends, like if you looked at, Winston-Salem, in theirs, you might see part of the wall being covered, you might see a full wall being covered, so it just depends on the layout. But this does include some full wall coverings.
The actual pictures that you have up there are not the actual pictures that you probably utilize, is that correct?
No, this is Winston, this is
Examples up
senior
there.
service in Forsyth County. And what we did whenever I said that we cut the lighting and all the accessories out, is you notice they have track lighting that just kinda enhances the graphics that they have on their walls. That's what we cut out. And then the plants and all that, you know.
So you had $9,000 of track lighting and.
Track lighting and plants and other, things like that.
How much of that cost, in the $10,075, whatever, how much of that is design?
Oh, it's on there, let me.
Because the reason I asked that is I understand that you mentioned that the community college, their students had no way of printing or installing, but you might be able to go to them and say, hey, if you'll design it.
Well, I did, and they felt like that was too large of a
Okay.
project, because that's where originally we started with it, was he felt like it was too large of a project. I even said you could do one little wall if you wanted to.
I just love utilizing high school children, and the community college and getting them active in, especially when it's government, something that's going on that they can, take part of,
Yeah.
and it cuts our cost.
I do
So-
as well, and the relationship that I built with him, he actually brought his photography class out to photograph the seniors, last semester. And this semester, since this project was too large, he is actually going to look at designing a logo for us.
Okay,
And
good.
so we still are gonna work with them. And I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me, but it's on the,
That's okay.
on the, invoice, I
As
mean,
long
the
as you,
proposal.
as long as you tried that.
They did the logos
Advanced
and all
class
for
was
our
the one that did our
transportation
design
too.
for the design at the.
Really?
Yes,
And the transportation logo
Yes.
as
That's
well.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, matter of fact, one of our superintendents is sitting in the crowd tonight.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Mr.
I
Fuller.
can. I've sat on the senior services board for a number of years, and I know for a fact that, whenever an idea comes before them, they hash it out real good, and they try to get all the alternatives before. If it involves, a document or something, it always goes to our attorney to check out before we do it. So they do a great job of utilizing, the monies that they're given. They have increased the value of their department considerably to the seniors that's out there. They do an excellent job.
Great.
Thank you.
I'd make a motion, we approve the request.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Please cast your vote.
All of the votes are in, and the motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ooh, the squeaky chair.
Mr. Smith will now lead off our continued discussion on tax reevaluation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At our retreat last week, we, started this conversation of moving the reval up from 8 years to 6. I'm gonna ask Jerry Ward, our tax, appraiser, or our tax assessor, to come up to the podium, please. You got a couple handouts at your place, but I just wanna walk through this at 30,000 foot, and then we can dive into the details. there's gonna be two impetuses for this, actually. One is the state, and as you can see, I think Jury's got you a typed out sheet here with notes. They are gonna push real hard for everybody to get to a 4-year cycle. That's probably gonna be very aggressive for us and a lot of other rural counties in North Carolina. So let's move into 6 as kind of a compromise with them. But the other piece of that, and this gets a little bit convoluted with the math, you've got varying pieces of the values. If you look at this sheet with a whole lot of numbers on it, this is kind of where I'm gonna put my attention here tonight. But if you look at this, part of the value comes from utilities, public utilities. If your sales ratio gets down to 90 or below, you can actually lose money on public utilities. And as you see from the handout here that Jury's typed up for you, number 1B, if that were to occur, you're gonna get more than a strong recommendation by DOR to change your reval process. So there's an impetus for this other than the financial component. If you remember from the retreat last week, which hopefully is fresh on everybody's mind, we walked through the whole, not just next year's budget, but really the next 5 years. And the one big project that's kind of standing in the way of everything is a potential for a detention center, whatever we end up doing with that. And so the tax rate, and as you can see from your sheet here, which hasn't moved, by the way, in 15 years.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why it stays stable is because of the way we're pretty conservative on what we do around here. So that being said, we're gonna have to do something to be able to handle the jail at some point in time, whether it's a tax rate move or we move this to a 6-year reval and look at picking up additional funds for the values.
I think that tax rate, correct me, Commissioner McClory, about 25 years, hadn't it?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I think
We moved it one time up,
One
and
time,
then
yeah,
we moved
moved
it
it
the
back,
next
yeah.
time back.
That was like in 94, I think.
Yeah.
There's
I'd like to note on the bottom of that, the average growth per year.
Yeah, and I wanna walk through this just for a second, if I can, please indulge me. I know numbers is not the most glamorous topic in the world, especially when we went, as hard as we went last Thursday. I commend you all. I don't know that I could sit there and listen to me talk for as long as I did on these numbers.
We're trained.
I understand. This side right here is the one I'm gonna focus on first. So this is with all the values broken out by category. And you've got the last, 13 years or so. The 2 blue lines is what I wanna highlight. So I think the question came up last week to Jury and to myself. We don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know what kind of reval this would be if we move it up. If you look at the one that says 2016, you can see, look to the far right-hand side, 0.45. So that's what I call a break-even reval. We basically didn't pick up anything, and if you remember from the calculations for revenue neutral, the state allows you to apply the growth factor to the end of your calculation, meaning the growth you would have received had you done the regular reval process. That, at the time we did it in 2016, showed the revenue neutral rate was gonna be 55 cents. And those of you that are on this board, remember, we did not do that, so we stayed at 54. Take your eyes to the top blue line there, though. The reval prior to that, 8 years before, was a different kind of reval. That came right before the crash of 08. And so the process for the reval would have occurred in 07 with you picking up the funds there in 08 when the tax bills go out. If you see with your eyes under the real property category, most of your change amount to the far right-hand side is coming from the real property. Now, I have no idea if moving this from 8 to 6 is going to be that type of reval. I have no clue. But let's say it ends up being some type of increase in the neighborhood of 3-4%. It's going to probably generate extra $2 to $3 million for the county. If you remember, that's about what it was going. Well, it was a little more than that. It was 4.5. What it's going to cost to end up running the jail year after year after year after year. So, for us on the financial side, this is becoming a very easy equation. If you flip over on the back side, you can see this is the values, remember. Flip over on the back side, and you see the actual tax collections that generated. So again, I highlight the blue columns for you because you see the large jump in 08, and again, not much so in 2016. 2016 could have been a mixture, just regular growth in the county. So I just want to tee that up for you on the financial side, and also remember the DOR push to get to 4. And if your sales ratio drops below 90, which ours is about 93-ish, give or take, You're gonna lose public utility funds or value, and you're also gonna get, strong encouragement from the state of North Carolina to make changes to your process. We're already getting that anyway. Every time I'm at a meeting with officials from DOR, we're getting more and more pressure to move away from 8. So it's going to happen sooner or later. 4 is really aggressive, though, again, for us in small rural counties who don't have the staff to go around reappraising stuff every 4 years. But where we are tonight, jury's here for any more detailed questions, because the basic process is this. If you want to change it to 6, you have a resolution here at your desk that Chuck's typed up for you. You're going to have to enact it via resolution. That's step 1. Step 2, that springs into action jury's staff and the tax department. It'll take them the entire rest of this calendar year to get that process underway. That hence the reason why it has to be done well in advance, because those notices go out at the beginning of next year, 2021, because you have a appeals process and informal reviews that go on from January when those notices go out to when the tax bills hit the citizens' hands in July. So that's kind of at 30,000 foot is where we are here. But again, if you got questions about the process, I've got jury here. One other small piece to this, if this is something the county wishes to do, to ensure we use technology and we get the best data available to us, there's aerial pictography and photographic stuff that we can do, that we can bring to you all at a subsequent meeting. I'm not worried about it tonight. The state does that on a 4-year cycle, but if we need freshest data and parcel values as of now, it might be something we want to look at entertaining and getting it done for this particular year and just by the year. So I say all that, and that's all I have. I'll turn it over to the board.
Well, and I do want to apologize, because I was not here last Thursday. So I got one question I want to ask that probably was answered. If we don't go through this 6 years, this tax rate's going to change probably next year, isn't it?
And it's hard for me to say in the future, but if the path we're headed to put a detention center downtown, if it's anywhere near the numbers we're seeing now, and everything being equal, it is most likely going to have to change.
Because I'd seen everything from 55 to 58 cents.
Well, right, and so it's, at this point, it's still too early, because we're still a couple of years out of that, because we don't know where we're going to land. And the big part of it, as we talked about last Thursday, is not just building the building, it's running the facility. Yeah. It's adding the staff, the meals are going to go up, the medical's going to go up, the laundry's going to go up, so you're basically doubling the amount of beds we end up doing. So that's what's really going to be the sticking point, is not just getting the debt service to build the building, it's to finance and run the operations.
I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things. The lady that spoke during the public comment section, a lot of people don't realize that we're not allowed to, we're not allowed. This board does not speak back at public comment, because if we did, we'd have to do it for everybody. So if people can ask questions, but we don't have a chance to respond. This is the time in the discussion that we respond. So if somebody comes up and brings up a topic that's not on the agenda that night, then we can put it on another meeting agenda, just to clear that up. Now, the idea that the county has not cut projects or has not cut funds, that's something that is ongoing all the time. I know our staff, the manager's office, and department heads, they have, you heard tonight about PBB funds, and that is where they have to cut their own budget, and they have to find funds, and then they get a percentage of that goes into like a savings account that they can use it to purchase cars or murals or things of that nature. And the county general fund gets that put back in their general fund, and it's a way of saving money. And Casey, do you know where we're at right now since we enacted PBB funds? Or Fred, you're always on it. And
$3 million.
Yeah, I mean, but you're talking a total accumulation of 20 years of running the program.
Yeah, but it's a bunch of money, though. It's not just pennies. So this county yeah, I'm not talking, I'm just talking right this second. And then if it's the chairperson's, if she wants to allow that, but I've traveled the county, and I mean, not just our county, but our state and other counties. We are very light in how we spend money. We are very conservative. But,
I don't think asking to see that is too much to ask. I don't want you to be told that. I want to see it in black and white, and putting it on the website is not too much to ask.
This is inappropriate, so we heard, you heard it. We do not have a conversation with one another.
Do not address me personally.
Okay.
If you do not want me to respond, do not address me personally. Period. Continue.
Arnold, in the material that we have here, public record,
And all of our budgets are online,
can
and
get a copy of
financials
this.
and everything.
And putting it on your website for your voters to see is not too much to ask for.
it's already
It's
there.
already there.
Contact you. I want to see what's been eliminated. Overspending. Do not try to tell me this county is innocent of that. No county in any state in this country is. Find where you're overspending, eliminate that before you take more from us.
Okay. We've already had the public hearing, so.
And stop talking personally to me.
Ma'am,
Talk amongst yourselves, we're used to that.
Have a remove, so quit interrupting.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, talk to Pace if he's here.
I think he left.
All right, I'd like to make a motion.
I got some more.
Yeah.
I think we have some additional
Go ahead,
remarks.
Zach.
No, you go right ahead, sir.
Okay, Mr.
One of-
McClure.
One of the things that has been discussed in part, but not in whole, is the fact that we do have a revaluation coming up that we can't dodge because the state of North Carolina requires it. So if we raise a tax, what it does is it raises a penny on everybody in this county. If you do a revaluation, what it does is revalues the property. So those people who are in a lower income home, and it's not increased in property, in value for the last 4 or 5 years, as much as people who live in the richer areas or the more prosperous areas, and the homes are worth more. What it does is equalize that, because every year that you go, that the property values grow up. If the one property value goes up 30%, and these property values here go up 10%, then the people with the 10% are paying a bigger percentage of the tax. So they're carrying more of the load of the tax with just a flat tax increase. With a revaluation, it revalues the property and puts it in a perspective of how much that property actually is worth. And that is the purpose of the reval, is to level the stuff out. And that's the reason that the Department of Revenue wants it to go sooner, because there's not such a disparagement between who's paying the taxes. I'm on the NCACC board, and this has been brought up and discussed at the board. We've had the state people appear before us and tell us that sooner or later it's going to be that way. But we have been able to avoid doing that so far as a reval, and the increase in the change over the last 10, 15 years has been like what? 1.2%. And it doesn't go up automatically. If you do the reval, then you're not going to increase taxes every year after you do the reval. It's going to remain level. Is that right?
That's right.
So, it's sometimes it's hard to understand. Sometimes it's hard for us to understand, but we try to do the best and get the best information that we can get. And another point is, if we do a reval now, and it comes time when you would have done the 8 years, if we have to have a tax increase between now and then, the reval is going to take place anyway. So now you've got a tax increase and a reval. And that's what we want to try to avoid, is having it so close together. If we do the reval, there's probably enough, or I shouldn't say that, but there might be enough money in the reval so that they wouldn't have to raise taxes. I can tell you, I go to the NCACC meetings, they have no, I should say, they don't understand how we can have a 54-cent tax rate for the number of years we've had it. And the only way we've been able to do it is we borrow money we borrow debt when debt drops off. And we sold some debt, and how much we make off that?
We refinanced some a few years ago, and that's what's carried us through going to
Yeah.
courthouse with no tax increase.
So we try to look at every avenue that we can look at to save money and conserve, but I just wanted you to understand that the whole purpose of the reval is not to have income and not to generate income, but the purpose is to level out who's paying the taxes, so that there will be an equal percentage in that.
Jerry, I believe the state wants us to do it every 4 years, but what
Well,
we're looking at here is 6 years, right?
Right, I just wanted to advance it from an 8-year that's legally required to a 6-year, and lessen the impact. Couple of the motivators that I had and concerns I had was the sales ratio is at around 93, and it's dropping about 2% a year. We're getting close to that 90% level if we wait till 23 reval. We don't have the luxury of picking and choosing when we do this anymore. It is required by law. And, if we had our way about it, we wouldn't do another reval. I mean, it's stressful. My staff is having a lot of anxiety, but we need to do it because, worried about the 90%, sales ratio. Cause this stuff starts kicking in, these requirements. And, it's more stringent.
You're talking about the assessment and sales ratio.
Yeah.
And
that
if we
gets back
lose
to-
those utility funds, that's gonna be passed on to the consumers, right?
Right, well, right, and we're gonna lose funds, but what you just said, next year I'm gonna get Commissioner McClure to do the retreat for me. He explained it probably as good as anybody.
Yeah.
What you're talking about in that sales ratio, ideally, 100's perfect. So when you go below, the values are going up, but if it gets to a certain point, you start to lose, you cut your nose to spite your face, you start to lose public utility revenue at that point. If it goes above, because those values are low, you get the same concept, and you get kind of people wanting to do. Reevaluating the property is simply like a deck of cards. It's just shuffling the deck back, but Commissioner McClure's point is very valid. It fixes all of the regressive and progressiveness of tax. It tries to shuffle that back again, and the 8-year cycle is just a little bit too long. DOR probably sees that as, it's being unfair to certain groups of people.
It is.
They would rather us do it as fast as, they'd rather us do it every year if you want the truth, but nobody can do that. Nobody can revalue.
Being a real estate agent, I see this all the time. I have sold houses for $400,000, the tax value was $200,000. I've also sold $300,000 houses for $120,000. Because the people had sit there and let them just rot away, and the only thing that you could do is buy it for the land, basically in the shell, go in and gut the inside of it and flip it as a lake house. And that's exactly what happened to it. And it was, tax value was over $400,000, and I sold it for $150,000. But doing a reval would allow, for people to, if you live in a single wide home that's 30 years old, your value might go down. Depending on what part of the county you live in and the land that you have versus, you could live up off Hickory Tree Road, and valuation right now might be $300,000. When we get done, it might be $350,000.
I'm just gonna be honest, there's absolutely nobody sitting up here that is happy, that wants to raise taxes. I mean, it's a shining jewel that for over 20 years it's been a 54 cents tax rate. And everywhere I go, they say, how in the world are y'all doing that? And I mean, here's where it gets critical. You got 54 cents on that tax rate, and then you've got our buildings that are getting older. Then you've got the state coming in, and we're having to transfer inmates to other places, and that's a lot of money that we're paying out. Then you got the school buildings that we're trying to take care of, so we don't have water dripping on our kids. We've got good places, they've got hot water and everything like that. Then we've got our facilities here, and not only our facilities, but we've got an increased growth in Davidson County. So we've got more citizens growing, and we've been using the same pot of money as everything else is growing to service all these individuals. And now it's getting to a critical time to where our facilities aren't where they need to be. The state's coming in saying you need to revamp that. We've got citizens coming in here because, yeah, this is a great place to live, and we're getting to a critical point to where we gotta do something, and the state's coming in saying, unfunded mandate, unfunded mandate, unfunded mandate. So that puts it on us to figure out a way that we're gonna provide the schools with the money, we're gonna provide services to individuals that can't afford transportation, can't afford food, can't afford this, can't afford all this stuff, and it's on us to try to do it for the lowest price that we can. And that's the part of us getting in here and trying to figure out ways that we do it, and I've seen the stress on the board, on the staff, on the members. That's why we have to cut budgets on murals and do stuff like that, and try to figure out the best way that we can be the best stewards of the county's money. But this is not an easy position to be in, and
I don't like this
none of us feel good about raising anything.
I wish we
But-
could lower
Well,
taxes down to a nickel.
And two, what a lot of, and I'm gonna tell you, before I ran, I was a great front porch quarterback. And somebody handed me the playbook, and I found out it was a whole lot different. You know, it's a,
Well, you know, it gets back to what Mr. McClure said.
what people don't realize is that 65% of our budget is mandated. You don't have a choice in that 65%. And that only leaves a smaller portion. And if you got a emergency in the school system, or gotta have a roof, you gotta have a courthouse, you gotta have a jail, you gotta pay for housing inmates and other facilities, 'cause the state's levying fines on us if we don't. And then you're housing state employees, state prisoners, where they used to put them in prison, now they're in your local jail. So, I mean, it's not easy. It's not an easy task to try to figure out how it all.
It's
And
like,
then- and then we
Commissioner,
prepare to protect the citizens for like this COVID-19. You don't know what's gonna happen, so we have to have money set aside to protect people for that, so.
Well, you know, we started out, and I asked a question, and Mr. McClure answered that question. What I was saying is if we wanna keep a 54-cent tax rate, we need to do something about the revalve now instead of waiting 8 years, because if we wait 8 years, we're gonna have to raise this tax rate probably sometime between now and the next 2 years. And then we'll have that higher tax rate, plus we've got mandated to have that revalve in.
and it's like, Commissioner McClure said, if you raise the rate, that impacts your car tax, personal property tax, everything.
It's everything.
And, a reval is a great equalizer, and, it makes the ones with more pay more, and the ones with less pay less. And some properties may depreciate and be less.
More on my truck taxes now.
Well, there's always, in an 8-year cycle, there's always certain subdivisions in the county that actually lose value.
It could be.
Because, I mean, you know, they change occupations, they change population in a particular neighborhood that drives the cost down. Somebody opens a big business in a residential area and drives the price down. One of the things we do on planning and zoning all the time is to have, experts come in and do the work to make sure that business does not adversely impact the people that live around it.
Yeah.
And we try to do that, we do that all the time, we don't try, but it's,
Real old mill villages in the the municipalities, Lexington and Thomasville, and, they may have actually gone down, and the sales would reflect that. So the revaluation should recognize that.
Further discussion?
The only thing, Madam Chairwoman, that I don't like about this is just the timing of it. But I understand it's something that we have to do, and I understand it on the real estate side, 'cause I see it every day about how our valuations are not, which county taxes will never be appraised value on anything. I don't care which county it is that you look at or where you go. We can evaluate them today, and it's still not gonna be the same thing. I still have yet to figure out how y'all come up with your appraisals, 'cause when I run a comp, it ain't the same, but I run a comp on what I think somebody will pay for it. But,
Yeah.
the timing of it, I don't really like, but I understand the reason behind it, and I understand what we have to do. And I understand the state has been pushing for the counties to go to that. So, I mean, I see all that, like I said, I just don't care for the timing of it.
well, timing is actually more beneficial, because if we do the reval, and it generates enough money, we can bank that, and then we won't have to go up on the taxes. But if you go up on the taxes today, and there's not enough money, and you have to have more additional, then you have to pass the tax increase, now you've got the reval and the tax increase.
Right, and I understand that. I'm not talking about that part of the timing. I'm just saying I wish we had, had this back in December and looked at it as opposed to now.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wish this had been back late fall or something, to look at. But, like I said, I see it every day. I know that our valuations are not accurate and, in today's economy. That Trump economy's got things kicking off going well.
And the Department of Revenue, they actually audit us, and they keep an eye on what we do as far as the assessments.
They're gonna make us do something.
Anything further? Do I have a motion?
Madam
To
Chair,
either
if I may, you've got a resolution here.
Yeah.
So this would be the motion if this is the wish of the board to move forward on 6 year. That sets in motion that as opposed to having a separate motion on doing it and then approving this resolution.
Okay.
This sets in motion moving it up to January 2021.
Which would be the adoption of the resolution.
Adoption of the resolution. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Motion and
We both
second.
got on at the same time.
Cast your vote.
No, yeah.
All the votes are in. And that motion carries 6-0.
Next, we're gonna move on to the contract with the town of Denton to provide fire service to South Emmons, and Mr. Fry will lead this off.
Madam Chair, I'll be glad to start. I'm gonna ask for the help of our fire marshal if Mr. Ward could, but he, recently contacted our office and said he had been contacted by the town of Denton, which has been providing fire protection services to the, South Emmons Fire District. Denton was applying for a grant, and in order to access that grant, they have to have a current contract with the county. What we're trying to do now is basically just to update what has been in effect for some time, and that is the town of Denton provided fire services district for that fire service district. The proposed contract that is in front of you tonight is modeled on the contract that is currently in place with South Emmons. Other than the change in the names of parties, the only significant difference is that when we originally prepared these contracts with the fire departments, we were careful to include language which would reflect the North Carolina open meeting law. And we required the fire departments to have open meetings of their board of directors, to provide fair and accurate notice of those meetings, to take minutes of the meetings, to only go into closed session in circumstances that would be consistent with the North Carolina open meetings law, to keep an agenda, basically what you have to do or what we have to do as part of our board meetings and any of our committee meetings. That's not otherwise a mandate that is required of a nonprofit organization such as a fire department. It was to make the work of each of the different fire departments transparent, and they all agreed to that. That language is not in the new contract, and the reason it's not in the new contract is because the town of Denton is subject to North Carolina open meetings law. And so they already have to comply with that and actually have to meet a higher standard than what we are requiring of our fire departments. But with that one exception, the language which is in the proposed contract with the town of Denton reflects the language which we had been previously working under.
Yeah.
Did South Emmons have a fire department years ago or something?
Can you help me, sir?
No, the South Emmons Fire District was set up, as a way to collect taxes, to provide service to that area. And they've always relied on the town of Denton to provide the actual fire protection.
The funds that we collect for South Emmons, where do they go now?
They go to the town of Denton.
So they already go to the town of Denton?
That's
And then Denton passes it through to South Emmons Volunteer Fire Department, or no?
No, those funds are, transferred from the town of Denton's general fund, is what my understanding is, to the budget of the fire department, the
Okay.
Denton Fire Department.
So there is no, okay. I just wanted to clarify that. All right, so they're not gonna contract, 'cause the reason I'm asking that is if they did have a fire department, to make sure that Denton, if they had a contract with them, that they had those provisions that you just excluded in this one. Okay. All right, other than that, I think it sounds great.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Mm-hmm.
Have a motion?
I got a motion to terminate the current South Emmons contract and approve the new contract with the town of Denton.
Second that.
Have a second? Please cast your vote.
And that motion carries 6-0.
All right, we will move back to Mr. Cornman.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Welborn has arrived and is present. You have a request by Philip Dale Welborn to rezone 8,500 hundredths of an acre, more or less, located in Thomasville Township, tax map 315, lot 19G. The property is located on the south side of the Midway School Road, approximately 280 feet west of the Scenic Way intersection. Address is 7384 Midway School Road. The rezoning is requested change from RC Rural Commercial District to that of RA3 Rural Agricultural District. The recommendation of the planning board, Ms. Crook, if you want to show that, included an additional 1,500 hundredths of an acre that included part of 19E, and that property is, let's see here. Jim William Wilson, and he was notified of the request, but the board felt like they wanted to make it contiguous to the RA3 district, to make it the map cleaner. If you'll look at the difference between the map that you have in your agenda packet and this particular, there is a, I think Lee's trying to show you that difference there. You can see that it's now contiguous, and
Okay.
and what has happened when they relocated Highway 109, they moved some homes to these lots. And if you're familiar with it, this is right in behind the old Big R grocery store that was on Midway School Road, 109.
Okay. Declare the public hearing open. Mr. Welborn, will you explain your request? Will you explain your request and state your name?
Well, I'll explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. House was moved there probably about 7 to 8 years ago when my brother was still alive. And we heard something about being commercial, but nobody told us no different. So we just put the house up there and went along with city code on all of it. And he passed, and you just never got around to taking care of the rest of it. But that's about all I can explain.
Okay. Any questions by the board?
I'm ready to pass this thing.
Is Scenic Way the old 109?
I'm sorry, it's
Scenic Way, is that the old one?
the old 109, yes, sir. This,
Where they got that big old pink house?
yes, sir.
There's a store there on the corner, right?
Yeah,
mhm.
there had been a store right there for years and years, and, in more recent time, it'd been used as a, sweepstakes place.
Yes.
I like the fact from the planning meeting, that all the neighbors are in agreement, it's compatible to the surrounding properties and, similar. So I'm like Zach, I'm ready.
Okay. I'll declare the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion?
Well, wait, got Mr.
Oh, Mr. Hill.
Hill,
Sorry, I apologize.
I gotta hear what he's got.
Mr. Welborn, will you just step aside and let Mr. Hill come forward?
Between us and the German.
I hope he can tell me if Carolina's gonna win tonight.
I apologize, Mr. Hill. Trying to move too fast, aren't I?
It's always Mr. Hill.
Always Mr. Hill.
Put that down, you don't have to change it. The answer to question D as in Delta on page 5 of the application, quote, "There has been no change in conditions. This is a residential area," unquote. That would be obvious to anybody except a professional planner like the one who was responsible for the initial zoning of this parcel. It was so obvious to Mr. Knowles that it didn't occur to him that the permits to remodel the house might be withheld, which they were. The subject property ought to be downzoned to match the zoning of the RA3 land that touches it on two sides, which is what the applicant is proposing. Here we have another confirmation, if one were needed, that when the government makes a guess about vacant land, it usually gets it wrong. I'm in favor of the proposal.
Right. Thank you. Now, do I have a motion?
So moved. Motion, to also adopt the statement of consistency.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Do I have a second?
Second to Chris.
Second.
Okay.
I seen you make it do it. I didn't know what it was, but.
Please cast your vote.
Book in and do it.
You had a gesture, but nothing was coming out.
Get me tickled. About to go to sleep.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 6-0.
Pass, sir.
Good job.
Motion to adjourn.
Man.
Second.